To the Heads and Volleys podcast with me, Lee Dunn. Today I'm really excited to bring you this interview with someone who is starting to make a lot of noise, and it's really good noise. It's John Kokkoris with the Johan Juniors, and if you are familiar with the Twitter world or LinkedIn or Facebook, you'll see, or even Instagram, you see a lot of the material that he's putting out based around this game model that they have and the desire for commitment and perseverance and excellence from their players, regardless of the age of those players. And we go into a lot of that conversation here. So really excited to bring you what John has to say. But before I do, I want you to just drop me a voicemail or leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this. I'd really appreciate it because it helps me get noticed. It helps me bring more quality onto the show. And it also feels nice that I know that you're listening, and I know because I see the listener counts, but I would love to know what you're really thinking of it. So leave me 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, whatever it is. But I really appreciate you guys letting me know exactly what you're thinking. So here we go, straight into this interview with John Kokkoris. So Heads and Volleys, guys, here is John Kokkoris. It's an exciting chat that I'm really, really looking forward to getting into what he does and what he's doing with his youth and his programming. So John, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to, share ideas and use social media to kind of put what we're doing out there and get some good feedback from the community.
So why don't you start with a little kind of overview, who you are, where you're from, kind of what you're doing and your background in soccer?
All right. So I'm from Long Island, New York. I was very lucky enough to meet a guy that's kind of like a local legend. His name is Joe Miso. When I was about 24 years old, when I started getting into coaching, he kind of took me under his wing. I made him my mentor, whether he liked it or not, and kind of just used all his knowledge. He's 75 years old now. So when I met him, he was probably about 67. And he was coaching right now. I think this is his 55th year of coaching. Wow. So, me being like 24 years old, it was amazing because you got a guy that coached very big programs and ran very big programs. And he kind of was generous enough to take the time and give me 55 years of experience and kind of help me expedite my learning process, and that just kind of skip that trial and error that all coaches do. So it's a blessing. So he kind of got me into to where I needed to be as far as putting together an organization. I met a couple of like-minded guys, and we formed Johan Junior Soccer out of Long Island, specifically out of the Franklin Square area. And we started working with the younger guys, and now the oldest group is 10 years old. And yeah, that's where we are right now.
So a couple follow-ups on that then. So when you kind of chose Joe to be your mentor, what was that like? What was the conversation like? And then I guess some of the biggest takeaways that you took from having a mentor, because I think it's something that a lot of people are encouraged to do, and maybe people aren't so familiar with actually having the process of being a mentor or having a mentor.
Yeah, so that's all credit to Joe, to be honest, because there's a lot of guys that they have this knowledge. First of all, you have to be coaching for 55 years at a high level is, there's very few guys that could say they've done that.
Yeah, for sure.
He's had his hand in building some of the biggest youth programs in New York, BW Gacci, Met Oval, and New York Coda. If anyone is from the area or has a little bit of knowledge about New York soccer, they'll hear those names getting thrown around. So he was the director of all 3 of those programs for a combined 20 years. So it's credit to him for wanting to, utilize his time in educating someone that's, a couple of generations younger than him. And you don't find people like that many, nowadays. I don't think, I think we're looking to share things, but to take that kind of time, he's an unbelievable person to do that, I think. So I was coaching his grandson, both of them actually, Christian and Alex. I was coaching them at a youth program, and he came over and he said to me, "Do you mind if I help you?" And right there, a lot of people might have, said, like, "Hey, I got it under control." Which I'll be honest with you, if a parent comes up to me and I'm running a session, most of the time I'm going to say, I plan for this. I'm good, but the key to that was having an open mind. And he said, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I said, just whatever you would like to suggest, or you see anything I don't, I said, just let me know. So he just kind of observed. He helped out the goalie a little bit. And then at the end, he started talking to me, and I said, yeah, I just love soccer. And then he's like, if I didn't, now he tells me, not then, obviously, but now he tells me, like, if you didn't say those words, I love soccer, he's like, I wouldn't have been really, really much help to you. So yeah, that was the magic words, I guess, for him to hear I love soccer. And if you know him, I'm sorry.
So if anyone's listening and they really want to get involved with another coach or something, maybe the magic words are that I love soccer.
Whether you say it or you show it, listen, I'm 31 now, and if there's a lot of young coaches that come by and they kind of, sometimes they come to learn, or they're former players and they want to get into coaching. If you don't even have to say those words, but if you show you love soccer and you belong in youth soccer, why not open the door and help those guys? I think that's
absolutely, yeah. So tell us about the Franklin Square area. You kind of mentioned that. Is that the I guess maybe the demographic, maybe the opportunity that was provided for you to grow such a formidable club now?
Yeah. So the area, I mean, Bruce Arena came out of Franklin Square. The pedigree of that place is not, there's a lot of good players that came out of there. The youth national team used to go to that area to train. It's not really recognized as maybe one of the biggest clubs, but there's a lot of history there. As far as the demographics go, it's right on the border of Queens, so that's like probably the most diverse area in the country, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah,
it is, right? So yeah, we got all kids different shapes and sizes that are around that love soccer, and we it's a good area. I felt close to home. As I played in that club. I was part of a very strong team that came out of there when I was young, 14 or 15. And Joe, my mentor, he actually his business was out of Franklin Square. So okay. Yeah, it was kind of like a no-brainer. It was a perfect fit. Also, when I first started working there, one of the guys, Rob, my friend Rob Gervasi, he had a team there. They were U11 at the time. He had two boys in the program. One was U11, one was U12 at the time, and they were a nice group. They had a lot of talent, man. And when we went there, we kind of said to them, like, look, these kids, they're playing in like one of the lower divisions, and we said, these kids have the talent to play at a high level. Like, they could play Premier, they could play, at the top of the game. I said, let's give it a shot. And credit to Rob, where he was all for it. And we changed the environment, and we demanded a lot from the kids. A couple of years later, they won a couple of state cups, and they ended up in Premier. And his oldest son just committed to a Division II college, and we're very proud of him. So,
oh wow, nice work! Yeah, look, that's going to be really rewarding to see just that progression from deciding to take them for a challenge and now seeing the benefit of that of a player going on above and beyond.
Yeah, Lee, like, let me tell you, the line between kids that are recreational or high level or even elite, the line is very thin, man. It's if they have the ability, if they have a little bit of athleticism and they want to be there, they have like a little mentality where they want to learn and they take themselves seriously. you can do a lot with those kids. Where you have a kid that's very good on the ball and he's a natural, he's got a good left foot or right foot or whatever. If he doesn't have the mentality, he's not going very far. So the trick is really to trigger that mentality and get them to take themselves seriously. And then it's up to the kids how far they want to take it. We're not magicians, we don't build players at all. All we do is we create the environment and we give the kids the tools to succeed. And if the kids do it, that's credit to them. That's not us. That's them. So
I have, I really want to revisit that too, the idea of the mentality, because I think that's something that is starting to become more and more prevalent and people are starting to pay more and more attention to it. But I want to ask you first about the model of Johan Juniors. So you have a game model that everybody follows in the club. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from that model, is that model something that you have believed in? Does it include the community? And so talk about the diversity of the area. Does that include that? I guess what I'm trying to get at here is the multiple diversities. Is that into consideration with the model, or are you saying this is the model that we're going to play, and then you come and be a part of it? If that makes any sense in the question.
So, our game model, we try to keep it non. I don't want to say the word. I don't want to say the wrong word. It's basically, we don't want to compartmentalize ourselves into any. We don't want to put ourselves in any of the brackets, man. We kind of we're fluid. We're just soccer for what soccer is. So we're not the Italian soccer. We're not the Brazilian soccer. We're not the Argentinian soccer. We try to keep ourselves open and with full respect to soccer for what soccer is. That's basically what we are. We're soccer in its rawest form. So and then like the national team, they kind of, starting from the U.S. Federation, what they want to see in like a number 7 or a number 11 or an 8 or a 2, we try to align ourselves best with those guys, just because that's what the federation wants. But that doesn't mean we use all the federation's resources on how to get there. We have our own convictions, but we have an open mind and we try to stay fluid. We're always, we're free formed. I think that's what we are.
Okay, good. And that's kind of where I was going with it, where the background of players and where they come from, and then a style of play that may or may not suit them. So that's kind of where that one was going.
Do you think that the style play has to do with like those individual qualities?
It's something that I have begun to question for sure. But I think to go full circle to how you mentioned mentality, is it the idea that if you create an environment that is challenging to the players, or it's a place where they want to be, then perhaps it doesn't really matter what that particular style of players or the model is, that they are there to work hard and they maybe see a pathway. And I guess maybe I sound like I'm bashing myself there by saying I'm not creating an environment that's challenging them enough or is inducive enough for them to want to work hard. But something that I've toyed with as an idea that maybe their culture and their background has a part to play in the way that they see the game or the way that they like to play it.
Yeah, I think that's our one responsibility as a coach, is to create the environment. Sure. I strongly believe that. If you just let the kids kind of, if they just come and they just and they just do what they want to do, I don't think that you're going to be getting the most out of the kids. I think by being demanding, creating a structure and routines, we found success in that for sure. I mentioned it before. The first day a kid meets us, whether he's 5 or 7 or 14, the first question is, we could either be babysitters or we could treat you like you're on the national team. Which one you want to be? And it sounds cool. They say national team. Well, now you just signed the contract, my friend, because you said it, not me. Now we're going to treat you like the national team, and we're going to work every time we're here. And we just remind them of that.
So then let's go back to the mentality portion that you mentioned, that you are setting the standard as soon as they meet you, that they understand what this environment is and what they've signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we're not for everybody. And we tell the parents that, and we tell the kids that. And it's like, we expect you to try to get, we call it a ladder. We expect you to step on the ladder and get to the next rung on the ladder every single time you're there. And we'll hammer them, and a lot of parents, they want to jump on board because they see our team, doing these things, or they play against you, and then they're here, and then 6 months later, and then, maybe, this is a big commitment, or, it's not all roses, whatever. And it's like, hey, man, we told you we're not for everybody, So,
so that was going to be another question then, in terms of the buy-in from the parents, because you're right. If I have my own kid and I see an organization like you guys, where the style of play, and there's a clearly defined way that the team plays, and there are clearly defined behaviors, and that's something that I would like to put my kid into. So then, in terms of buying with the parents, the communication, as you said, may be that this is a tough program and this is something that we have high expectations of. Now, do they understand, or do you share with them kind of what the process is, what the expectations are, what they can expect from a typical training week or a typical season?
Can you do the last part? Can you just repeat the last part? Because I wanted to say something from the first part, what you said, but the second.
So then, so then it's about sharing the expectations. Do they know exactly what, or do they understand what a typical training week may look like, or what the season may look like in terms of games, and then even things like attendance and expectations in that realm? Yeah,
we're a full commitment. We're year round. We're 48 weeks a year, and we're a full commitment. And right now, to be honest, our approach when a player comes and they want to sign up or they want to try out, we give them a trial where it's more than one day. We usually give them 2 weeks, 3 weeks if we're trying to squeeze a guy into a roster and it's tight, and we're just trying to figure out what's the best for everybody. And right now, our approach is more like, are you sure this is for you? Rather than trying to sell the parent to sign up. It's more, we're kind of keeping you away, and we kind of monitor to see do they really want it, or is this we're not begging for anybody to come over here. It's more,
right.
We want the people that are going to be here long term for sure.
Which is a very different opinion, or a very different approach from an average youth soccer club, where it is, come and join us. We'll provide this for you, provide that for you. But almost that alternative of, this is what we're doing, and maybe you fit, maybe you don't.
Yeah. You also said something else about the I don't want people to have the misperception that we're only an elite program. That's not what we are. We serve the players that we have. And, that's a gymnastics mentally for the coach, where sometimes you're working with the shrimps, the little ones. And then the next one you're working with, honestly, the 2010s that we have, we've had them since they were 5. So they're kind of manicured, we got them where they need to be, mentally. And the environment is pretty intense. So not every group is like that, but we try to structure them all like that. But if someone is going to go and say, I only want to work with teams like that, then in my opinion, you're not a coach, and we don't really want you working with us. You got to build that environment. If someone comes and they say, oh, look, you got these kids, it's like, dude, we had these kids since they were 5. These kids didn't come like this at 10 years old. It's their credit. It's the parents and it's the players and the coach. We call it a triangle. It's the parents, the players, and the coach. If one of those pieces of the triangle is not giving, the triangle doesn't exist. It's got to be in harmony,
Yeah, man. So then there is a pathway for players through the organization?
A pathway meaning starting from little ones to when they're 19?
That's it, yeah, because I know that you mentioned especially focusing with the younger ages for a lot of it, but then they see where they can end up with how the older teams are performing. They know, for example, now you mentioned players going on to college from there, so they're beginning to see a pathway through the club.
Sure. So I'll do you mind if I paint a bigger picture?
Absolutely.
All right, so we had these kids on the original group since they were five, right? So I was coaching U23 and a U19 team, and Jose had probably, if not the strongest, one of the strongest 2003 teams in the East Coast at that time. And so we were dealing with like older boys, U15s, U19s, U23s, and what happened was we had these babies and we had them in a friendly game or like a little league game outdoors, and it sounded like the most, from what I remember, it was like a peaceful day at the park. There was no parents yelling, there was no talking to the players. It was unbelievable, and you just hear applauses when the kids would do something defensively or like a cross. Like they were five, right? So they would just try to like put the ball into the middle from like the wide area, right? And you just hear the parents like applause it. It wasn't "Go Tommy." It wasn't like that. It was like when a kid ran and he came back and he like defended, like he tried to steal the ball. The parents like clapped. There was no verbal, and I was like amazed, and I was like, we could do something with these guys. So we kind of reset and we hit we put all the resources into the young ones, and those parents are amazing, man. They've been nothing but supportive, and they've been nothing but they treat their kids the way their kids need to be treated. It's all about the kids. It's not about the parents. There is no egos in that team. The kids are like bonded like brothers, and we've had a really good success with them. So now we use that model, and we're repeating that model in the younger age groups. So that team is U10. They're U10 right now. They're 2010 boys, right? So now that team blew up into three teams. There's 35 2010s in that age group. The top two ones are very, very strong. Like they're a game between the top two is within 2 goals, and it could go either way, to tell you the truth. We're really proud of both of them. The first one, the original one, they're more synchronized. Obviously, they've been together for 4 years. The newer ones, they have raw talent, much more athleticism, and in 6 months, they're already, on the videos online, they're already showing a complete understanding of our playing style in 6 months. We got them July 15th. That was the first practice for those guys. So now, so what we did is now we created a ball mastery program for kids 4 to 10 years old, right? And once we have the certain number of kids at the same level and one age group, we pop teams out for that group. That makes sense?
So to understand, they'll join the ball mastery program, and then when you feel confident that you have X amount of players all at the same level, then they become a team?
Yeah, and we have the 2012s are kind of the first ones that we started out of the ball mastery, and they're the concepts they're demonstrating right now is they're high level. They're 7 years old. They understand reading pressure. They understand how to use like all the players in the field to get to their objective. It's not just go forward. They know how to use all these spaces on the field. It's crazy, but that's what it's really not that crazy because they don't know anything else. We started from scratch. The parents are educated. We tell them no talking to the individual player. No, we tell them no individual instructions, no team instructions from the sideline. Just support your kid. Come and relax. You have a 7-year-old kid that loves soccer. You're taking him to the game. You're being a good parent. You don't need to make it about you. And the parents completely bought in, and we just trace it back to the 2010s, and we say, you see what it's happening here? We want more teams like that, and they want their kids to be in that situation. So it kind of, we're just trying to multiply it.
And so importantly, that starts with the youngest as they come into the club. Now, what happens if, and maybe you've experienced this, maybe you haven't because you got them so early and straight away, that there's parents that maybe aren't on board with that, or maybe they don't agree, or they get carried away and start yelling. Are those the ones that would probably say this isn't for us and have moved on?
Yeah, we had very good retention, really, really good retention. And yeah, we're not like you said, it just happens, or people
Sure.
can't help themselves, or maybe You know,
So let me divert a little bit and ask you about tryouts. So you mentioned bringing a player in, and this is kind of a hot topic right now, especially here in Northern California. We're getting ready for the tryout window. And so I'm interested to know: do you entertain that dance, or do you do as you said, where you bring a player in for a couple of weeks and see if they fit? And do you ever lose players like that unless it's a player would rather go and play somewhere else? Or how are you dealing with this tryout saga?
So our tryouts are the whole month of May.
Okay.
And so, you know, but we keep it's open tryouts all year round. So if you just email us, or you know, you run up to us on the field and you want information, or you hear from a friend, you know, we welcome the kid down to try out, you know, and they come. We always tell them we never want to look at a kid one time, because the kid's going to be like, what, you know, what is this? You know, I'm not allowed to put my hands in my pockets over here, you know, all this stuff. So, you know, that's it. Or you know, the kid is high level and he just is like, this is what I'm looking for, you know? So so that's how we do it. We always do more than one. And sometimes we have a spot. It happened a few times this year. We have spots available. So we sign the kid up right away and boom, you know, he starts playing the next weekend. Then we have them, you know, let's say if a roster is jammed, or like, let's say a group of 3 kids want to come together or whatever, or whatever, you know, someone just wants to fulfill the commitment to their team, which is great, and they want to come at the end of the season. We have a trial period in May, which is you could come to, you know, this many dates, you know, the more the better, free, you know, there's no price or anything. And then they come and they try out, and then we just make the teams, and we send the letters out in June, and then we get ready for the fall. Obviously, like, you know, a couple of kids that are not happy, they'll go and try out at other clubs. It's normal. But you know, you can't help that. You can't control it. You can't control it. You know?
Yeah, it's just so interesting, having been at the convention just 2 weeks ago and listening to all of the ideas and stories that people go through with tryouts. So it's always interesting to know how people are approaching it, and ultimately players are going to move, or players think they can do better elsewhere, or like players have come to you because they see how good you are and they want to join it, but they don't realize perhaps what it takes. And so to get back on track here, I want to ask you, there was a tweet that you were tagged in recently, and I really enjoyed this, and I want to dig into it. And part of the line in the tweet was that you shouldn't underestimate what U10s are capable of. Right. So what are they capable of?
You got to see when they're ready to give them more, and you know, and everyone's level it's relative to them. So you push them. You know, the flow, it's like a flow chart, right? Not flow chart, it's a flow state chart. So if you heard of the flow state chart?
I don't know. Maybe it might be a different English term.
Yeah, right. It probably sounds nicer in English, in British. But the flow means you want to get the kid in the flow state, which is about challenging them for their level. So if you're trying to tell me how to do something that's way too complex, I'm going to get stressed out. And if you're telling me something that I could conquer, it's going to make me bored. You have to find them a challenge that they can succeed if they put in the right amount of work and concentration, but fail if they do the opposite and they don't put that work in. You want to hit that happy medium all the time, and that's up to the coach. So how much are they capable of? I'll put it this way. If I ask my team to do, my 2010 group, if I ask them to do something too challenging for them, if I ask them to play one touch the entire game, they're gonna freak out. They'll probably start crying. You know, they'll flip out. You know, I want one touch in our half only, and then I want a goal from a volley in attack third. They're gonna flip out, man. You know, they're gonna freak out. They're probably not gonna play soccer anymore. But if I tell them, if we're winning 4-0, trust me, they get bored immediately. They get bored. Which is why we challenge them in those type of games. So, you know, we'll set up little things where we have to, you know, do something for how we score. So you have to read the players and see what they're ready for. And that's where our curriculum comes into play. We have a very clear curriculum with a lot of conviction in how we set it up, from 7 years old to U19 or U17 really. And once they meet the criteria, we can challenge them within that criteria, if that makes sense. Or we can push them to the next level.
And that makes total sense in the bigger picture of the organization too, as you say, that there's a clear pathway and there's a clear understanding of even players coming out of this, the idea of coming through a ball mastery program, so that effectively you can class them as proficient in the foundations of what you need from them, so that you can then challenge them further. And I think that is something that I'm beginning to see more and more as I explore the idea of really just organizations knowing what they are doing. And there are many coaches on the field doing what they think is right, and perhaps they haven't had the support from an organization to help them along the way. And I think the model that you have here is exactly what every coach in the world needs, really, whether it's your model or someone else's model. But it's a solid pathway for these players to follow, because a lot of players you see, and you probably see a lot online too, where players are standing in lines and they're passing through cones. And that's kind of where my question's coming from, in terms of don't underestimate them. And the theory is that these kids are young, so they should be learning these things. But if you catch them even earlier than that, as Tom Byers says, and even going as younger as soccer starts at home with 2, 3, 4-year-olds, and by the time they get on the field, now we can really challenge them, right? We've set them up to have success, to be challenged even further.
No, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's not about our way. It's about that's the variable. The way you do it is the variable. So I joke and say it's like chicken to the parents. We're asking for grilled chicken. You might be giving them chicken cutlet. I don't want. We don't want chicken cutlet. We're asking them to do this. There's more than one way to skin the cat. The Italians play different than the Brazilians. The Spanish play different than the English. We're asking for a specific way, and that's the variable. The fixed is undeniable. You need a curriculum. Every coach needs to be on the same page and aligned with a path. That is undisputable. That's a truth. So you need that fixed structure, and the variable is how you want to do it. And as long as the coach fits into that pathway and the players are being built along that pathway, I think that you're on the right track globally. I don't see another way. If there's another way and it pops out, great, we'll learn about it. But I don't think there's another. I don't think there's another in any sport too. In basketball and baseball. I don't know about baseball, but basketball for sure. It's the same thing. And just going into that. So we have a 7v7, we have a 9v9, we have a 11v11 model. Meaning the curriculum is broken down into those pieces, into those formats, and
right.
Within those formats we have phases. And right now, the 2010 they kind of graduated that 7v7 model, and we're kind of just letting them do their thing now. Where even some of the parents have even, the parents have even
so
said,
awesome.
like,
I love that. So then, let me ask you about the idea of going into homework and kind of beyond that for the players. So they come to practice, they do their practice with you, they have their time. Then what is the ask, or what is the challenge of them beyond practice, beyond their hours at the field?
Well, I just tell them that I could see you're not working at home with the ball, and I tell them that constantly, and then I'll do positive reinforce. I don't know where I read it. It might have been at a USSF course, to be honest. But when you positively highlight someone, everyone wants to be like that kid. So, for instance, the video you saw of the kid in the hallway, I took that to practice, and I'm like, guys, this kid's got 9,000 views. 9,000 people saw this, and I'm like, everyone's saying good things. I'm like, and look how hard he's working. And then I'll be like, I don't want to say the kid's name, but on the internet, but whatever. I say to him, I say, hey, how many times have you have you been in the middle in this rondo today? And he'll be like, once or twice, whatever he said. And I'm like, and then I'll go to the other guy, and I'll be like, how many times have you been in the rondo today? Whatever, probably over 10. I said, why? Because he's better on the ball than you? Exactly. I'm like, well, why is he better than the ball with you? Because he's working his ass off when he gets home. And then, I know we got a lot of crap for putting on the internet, but the kid's up at 5:30 in the morning on a freaking treadmill. That's a conversation I don't know if we want to get into, but the kids put in the work. So now I take that video, I show the kids. I got 5 videos since of kids working at home. 2 kids working together. One of them went to the other one's house. They laid out cones, and they're doing the same activities we did over the weekend. They're doing together in their house in the basement. We have a kid filming him hitting the wall, off the wall. He sent it. This was all within the last 3 weeks after I posted that video. So the kid, that's what grabs him for sure. Yeah, wow. And we tell them 1 hour a day minimum. If you're not touching the ball 1 hour a day, we just tell them that we're not for you. Do
you give them ideas like that? So you use kind of that positive reinforcement and the role model type stuff. Do you, players are joining, do you give them examples? I know there's a lot of stuff about like a ball in a wall or a ball in a friend. Do you give them stuff like that too? Or is it kind of just show us and do whatever you want to do with the ball?
Yeah. So the ball at the wall, if it's warm out, if it's if it's not freezing or raining or anything, we're you have to touch the ball for 1 hour against the wall, and we'll tell them inside foot, outside foot, in the air, controlling with the back foot, one touch, shoelaces, close range, long range, everything, everything you can think of, against the wall, headers, whatever. That would be the wall. Then we'll tell them, Joe, my mentor Joe, he likes the one where the kid was doing in the hallway. I'm pretty sure Joe even probably showed him, where you just go with the wall and you're like, oh, I'm going to go this way. Oh, no, I'm going to go that way. Oh, I'm going to go this way. Oh, I'm going to fake this way. Oh, the defender's coming here. I'm going to fake that. And they're just twisting and turning, left foot, right foot, bottom, inside, outside. And you just, until you're dizzy, and you just keep going. And then boom, you go again, and then you go again. And trust me, that's going to make you understand the ball. That's a better term, understand the ball, because that ball ain't moving unless you touch it, Lee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so yeah.
When you understand that, you're getting comfortable on the ball. So you could push the ball, do 3 fakes before that ball gets touched again. Some people freak out and they want to touch the ball 1,000 times. It's like you're going to lose the ball on your own and no one's near you. You got to understand how to manipulate the ball, and that's what you get by touching it. It's nothing complex.
There's a couple of schools of thought that I've come across in terms of this, where I even have players that are they'll juggle, and I just put a picture of a message I got from one of my players even just yesterday, and he had just got to, I think, 1,074 juggles. And there's a couple of schools of thought that say, you know what, he's never going to do that in a game. But in my opinion, he told me it took him 13 minutes straight of juggling the ball. And so then I'm like, well, no, you're not going to do that in the game, much like you're never going to make yourself dizzy with skills and stuff. But that player is one of the most confident with the ball at his feet or the ball in the air. He knows what to expect when the ball's coming at him. He's got a better touch. And it just shows that he is consistently working. For him as his juggling count, but it shows in his game. And I think that from my perspective, if a kid can do anything, that's better than doing nothing for their game.
Yeah, and exactly. I couldn't have said it better, man. If you touch the ball, it's not hurting you, right? So juggling, you're not going to juggle in the game, but touching the ball like that 1,000 times a day is not going to hurt you. It requires very little space, and it definitely builds concentration. So I don't think it's going to hurt you. If someone does 1,000 juggles and someone else is doing 50, do I think that kid's a better player? Absolutely not. It means absolutely zero to me. But I just encourage them to juggle as much as even something I took off the Brian Cliven is he makes them juggle in between every activity. And I was like, dude, I'm going to use that. So I stole that from him. And
coaching's plagiarism, so that's perfect.
Oh, for sure. If I'm putting down cones, you bet your ass they're going to juggle. And I'm not going to have to tell them that. Juggle. What else are they going to be doing? Talking about their girlfriends? No. Let them go and juggle.
So then a question for you. on this model, this idea of the club, the one thing I would take away if I was to explain our conversation and my impressions of you within your program, the word would probably be commitment. And I think that that is something that people think they may have, but maybe they don't. And looking at what you have done in terms of even starting with the little 5-year-olds, that's not pretty. And that's not, like you say, people want to come in and work with those U10s who are balling, but they don't really want to start with a 5-year-old. So what does this take to replicate somewhere else? Is it simply that of just starting with an age group and setting your stall out and saying, this is what we do? Or is this something that takes a little bit more than that?
All right, so I know it's not a commercial or anything, but we're filming our entire how to create the environment. We're filming every phase I just mentioned in each format from 7v7, 9v9. We're not filming the 11v11 yet, but we're doing 7v7 and 9v9, and we're putting that out online so people could take a look at how we do things. Now, the reason why that's important is because you're going to be able to see how this, it has to be synchronized, and you have to have conviction, and you need to have an open mind. The minute you don't have conviction, it's not going to work. You need to know what you want to do, and that's why Joe is so important, our mentor, because he already did everything. So if I'm trying to do this at 30 or 30, even I could be 35. If I'm trying to do this, it's going to take me like 10 years at minimum to build a conviction, right? And then I'm 45. And now it's like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna do it starting with 5-year-olds. And by the time these kids are 15, I'm 55. But the thing is, I thought I knew how to do it, and I'm learning. So now it's a balance of conviction with having an open mind. So it's a very unique thing where I trusted him enough to get my convictions from him, but I always have it. But he also smart enough to teach me to have an open mind and be like fluid, like water, and like keep adapting to new information and grab from this guy and what fits with your model and keep it shaping all the time. So you need that conviction to create structure, but you need to have an open mind always. And I'm not sure if I'm really hitting the nail on the head there, but the main thing is you need to have an environment before you even think about soccer, man. If you don't have the environment, if you don't have the parents aligned with what you're trying to do, you could really forget about the soccer. The soccer is the least important thing in my opinion.
It's kind of like it comes along with the foundations that you've set with the parents, with the expectations. And so I guess, would you say that having this model, this foundation, this culture, you say it gives you confidence in what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And the worst case scenario is what's going to happen is you're going to get people that they're gonna respect and like what you're doing because their kid's in a healthy environment, which is probably the most important thing to parents on a parent level. So when you do that, people they might say, okay, my kid, maybe. We're not geniuses, man. I'll tell you that again and again and again. We're not geniuses. We might not even be, the best. We might not be the best coaches, but parents might want their kids in our program because of the environment rather than just the soccer. Because you might find a coach that knows what he's doing. You look at all the pro coaches and the ex-pro players in the world, man, that are becoming youth coaches, and they're just awful. Because seriously, because they know what the soccer, they know the X's and O's, but they don't know how to trigger in the individual. They don't know how to make him tick. They don't know how to create an environment. They don't know any of that stuff. They're not psychologists. So you need that psychology. You need that. You need to know how to convince people what you're doing is important. You need to let the players know what they're doing is important. So without that, you're cut at the knees.
These are people before players, right?
Yeah, but not in the fact where it become. You don't need to make that recreational, because a lot of people are like, oh, they're just kids. It's no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying if you're gonna. So if you look at our brochure or whatever for the little ones, for the babies, for the ball mastery, it says we any at what age group, it says any kid that knows how to behave in a learning environment. That's what it says from verbatim. Any kid that knows how to behave in a learning environment. So we create a learning environment, and now once we create a learning environment, now we're gonna hit them with the activities and the concepts that that definitely work. You know, they definitely
Yes,
work.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's when we hit them with that stuff. But if we go to kids that don't want to be there or the parents aren't buying into it, we could bring the best curriculum in the world, and that's not going anywhere, man.
So there's the secret. It's that environment, it's that learning environment. There's an expectation and an understanding from everybody that's a part of it. Revisit the idea of this triangle of the players and the parents and the coach, that's what requires any model, any session, any environment to be successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just think about like a school classroom, you know, when you got like all the jokers in the back, they're on paper, whatever. I don't know what they do nowadays with the, but back in the day it was like spitballs and like, you know, a little reference to Kobe, you know, throwing the trash into the trash cans, you know, all that. But now I don't know what the hell they do, but then you think about a class that was like really interesting and you liked it. And it was like, you know, people didn't, you know, maybe even joked around, but it was like everyone was listening. There was no distractions. And once you have that, you learn. You're not going to learn with distractions.
Yeah. And I think even going back to my own experience with school, that the most influential people were the people that challenged me and engaged me. And to me, that was always the physical education component of school. So, and I also noted that even the worst behaved kids within a class were often the best behaved kids outside because they wanted to be active. They wanted to be playing the sport. And I often have conversation with coaches and I do a lot of kind of recreational coach education within San Francisco. And one of the common questions that get asked is, how do I stop the kids from messing around? Or, you know, I'll make them do laps so I can tire them out so they can learn. And it's always kind of shocking for an individual to hear that maybe their environment isn't conducive to the players' attitude or to them wanting to be a part of that environment. So maybe it's you, coach, and it's not necessarily the player. And that always hits home a little hard and it's kind of accusational, but based on everything we've just said here, that it's so true.
Yeah. It's a little bit of both, where if a kid is acting out and he's not, you have to figure out, is he in the wrong environment? Because I'll look at the other 10 kids on the team or 16 kids on the team, whatever the age group is. And it's like, if this dude's acting out and I'm trying everything I can to kind of get him in the correct mind state, and I exhausted, you know, all the, you know, then maybe it's the kid. Maybe it's the
Right.
kid. Maybe he can't be in that environment. But I've yet to really like work with a kid who's 7, 6, and you kind of keep him in a very structured environment where we're like, nah, this kid can't be here. No, that hasn't happened, my friend, you know?
Right.
And also, and the big thing is, it's like, I say it a lot. It's like, I tell them, once the 2010 group understood this, they became stronger. I've told them, I'm like, yo, this is not my team. This is your team. I'm just helping you guys. Cause they lost like a major game at one point this year. And they were like crying, and I'm like, dude, there's nothing to cry about. I'm like, no, because they've lost before, you know, and we've ripped them apart before, you know. They know. So they were probably expecting me to like come up completely, like, you know, rip them. And when I came over, and then I'm like, yo, I'm not mad at you guys. I'm like, I saw the way you worked all week. I saw you guys came early, you know, you guys to the game. You were all here on time. Your warm-up was excellent. You got beat, no problem. I'm like, I'm gonna make you better. I'm like, don't think I'm coming over here to because, you know, we need to win. Like, this is not me. It's your team. I'm here to make you guys better. And that's huge. So when the kid is there and he's part of the team, and it's kind of your job to make that kid fit into the team. But obviously, if the kid is a problem, you can't be there. It might not be for him, but you got to use your judgment, man. There is no with human nature, there is no rule book. I think it goes more off of sense, and understanding the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just something that you can't really learn in coaching school. So regardless of whatever licenses people feel like they need to achieve or whether they're going, that you learn so much from being on the field with players and actually paying attention to them. And I was talking to someone the other day and he said, "Oh, I've got to do summer camps all summer." And I said, "So how many years have you done summer camps for?" So I did them last year and I did 3 weeks of summer camps. And I said, "Well, not to say that I know what I'm doing, but I've come through 4 years of 10 weeks of summer camps. So that's hundreds of children that I've spent hours with." And then you soon realize the way that you can connect with them is to actually get to know them. And so develop the skill of being able to ask players questions. And the other day I had a conversation with a player who's not in my team, but is within the program that I coach in. And I learned that he gets up at 5 a.m. and he practices for 30 minutes of basketball and then does 30 minutes of soccer. And I asked his coach and I said, "I can't believe he's up that early. No wonder he's tired. No wonder when we practice at 6:30 in the evening, he's 12 years old, he is tired." And the coach said, "Oh, I had no idea. I just thought he was being lazy." And it just blows my mind that we don't know that as a group of coaches or as a coach of that individual. How have you not got to know that player? How do you not know that he's trying to do everything he can and you're standing at practice saying he's just not working hard enough. He's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. Dialogue's important, man. And you make a foolish decision where you're like, this kid's lazy.
Yeah.
But also the kid's got to communicate that to you, because if I thought he was lazy, I'd call him lazy.
Yeah, right. You'd have a conversation with him and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, exactly.
So then, John, what's last question for you really is, where did the name come from for the club?
A little bit of a Dutch influence. My father's favorite player is Johan Cruyff.
Yep.
Yeah. So juniors, obviously, that's the group that we work with. We work with. You know how Marilyn Manson got his name?
No.
Yeah, he put all influences into a hat, and he pulled out Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. I maybe I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might be like an urban myth, but I don't know. That it sounds right to me. So I a little bit of that, I guess, but not randomly. It was more using that concept, I guess. So yeah, just
sure.
Combining.
At least it's not Johan Manson. That's good.
Johan Manson. No, nothing like that, my friend. No.
So then, how do the listeners connect with you? How can they see what's going on? How can they see these videos that I see and I'm completely blown away by regularly?
Thank you very much, Lee. On Twitter, you can follow Johan Juniors Soccer. So Johan, Johan, Juniors, spelled out, and then soccer spelled out. The same on Instagram and the same on Facebook. Instagram, we post a lot of videos and stuff. On Facebook, we post full games. So if you want to catch the full game, of a match, and you want to see the bad stuff too, it's all there.
There's something that isn't often on display, the bad stuff.
No, it's all there. It's all, the full games are there. We just, we pull out some pieces of building out of the back and stuff, individual moments for, obviously we pull them out and highlight them, but it's all there on Facebook. And then my personal is JKOKKORIS 8. That's my handle for Twitter for personal. Yeah, you can reach out, a lot of interaction. If you ever reach out, I'll always message you back. I don't ignore anybody or anything like that. Sometimes people don't answer. Not me. Always talking soccer is what I do, man.
And when you've got a program this good, who doesn't want to hear about it?
Thank you very much. We're only getting started. If I could say a few things, is we're only getting started. We're very new. We have 10 coaches. And the younger age groups are really promising, and you're going to see more of these guys coming out. And the ones that we have, that 2010 group, there's some special guys in there. I'll tell you right now. So
You'll be hearing about him when they get a little bit older, 13 or 14, I think. And yeah, just the as far as if I could, and then if anybody's interested in reaching out about the online module that we're coming out with, or course or whatever, just reach out, and I'll keep you on a list. A few people already on the list that they said they wanted to, be the first to know when it comes out. But we're putting a lot of work in, and it's going to help coaches basically understand how we do what we do. And if you're coaching 99 or 77, it will give you a pathway to create a team that plays soccer. And what's unique about it is you're going to be able to make it flexible to do your style. So it's not our style. So Lee, it's not our style where you buy this program and then you say, all right, my teams are going to play like this. This program is going to show you how we do ours, but it's like you could insert your philosophy in there and color it the way you want. We're just the stencil. Does that make sense?
Like it. Yeah. The framework for which someone can apply their own trade to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me, man. It was a real pleasure.
So hopefully you see what I am saying from the intro of this episode in just the quality and the content that comes from John. So catch up with him, check in, see how he's doing with the Johan Juniors. So you can find him, as he said on Twitter, at JKOKKORIS8. And then you can also follow Johan Juniors at Johan JRS Soccer. So Johan Juniors Soccer. Definitely let me know what you think. I would love if you share this out with people that you know, people that are looking for this sort of model, this sort of level of understanding and approach to their own environment. I am also pushing out a mastermind of a critique of your own environment and learning how to take control of what you can control and how to begin to influence and adjust things that maybe are out of your control, but you can begin to get involved with. So check me out on LeeDunneSoccer.com. You can always find me at LeeDunneSoccer on Twitter and Instagram too. More information coming from me soon with regards to heads and volleys and also from this mastermind too.